Walking through De Palma, New York.
Yeah, gotcha. All right, so part of the thing about it is there was a whole era before De Palma became this Hitchcock acolyte, modern and master of the macabre, as 3/4 of the Just to Kill poster says. Is he was part of what I guess was called the New York New Wave, which was the kind of underground New York guerrilla independent filmmakers that came out at that period of time. Now, except for Shadow, John Cassavetes is really not part of that group. He's more California, but he kind of was the godfather of that group, nevertheless. But that group consisted of De Palma at the time with Greetings and Hi Mom and Wedding Party and Murder a la Mode, and Scorsese with Who's That Knocking on My Door, and Shirley Clark with The Connection and Cool World, Paul Morrissey with Heat and Trash and Flesh, and I actually think Paul Williams with Without It, but I might be missing somebody. Jim McBride with David Halsman's Diary, and that's the Kit Carson connection. So they had their own little collective, and they were truly part of a movement. But as opposed to the French New Wave, that were all making movies around a very recognizable Paris that they all grew up in and they all existed in. Like for instance, Charles Aznavour's character in Shoot the Piano Player could be walking down Boulevard Saint-Germain and bump into Hans and Franz from not Hans and Franz, but Franz and somebody. Franz and Arthur and Franz.
Franz is another not movie.
Yeah, I know, exactly. Arthur and Franz from Band of Outsiders. That could easily happen. They could just go into any coffee shop and Anna Karina could be there, and somebody else from a Truffaut movie, and somebody else from a Chabrol film. Well, that was not the case for the New York New Wave, because they all kind of stuck in their own neighborhoods. They all stuck in their boroughs. Scorsese's film was really about those Little Italy think they're tough guys, and they're Italian and their sharkskin suits, and that was the neighbor. That was what he was projecting. That was what he was trying to do. With De Palma, it was the hippies in Greenwich Village. Those were the characters of Greetings and Hi Mom. With Shirley Clark, it's the characters in Harlem, or it's the junkies in the Connection. In David Halsman's Diary, it's David Halsman in his apartment, and that's what it is. And it's like the Long Island kid in the Paul Williams movie. But so the point being, though, is that they might as well have been from different countries. None of those characters are going to cross paths with any of these other characters. They almost need a passport to go to appear in one of the other films.
That's interesting too, because it takes a step for me, and I think the most interesting stuff in the book is the taxi driver stuff. Just because, like I told you, I never knew that De Palma come that close to making it, and it would have been a different movie, and it would have been. We could almost remind me that the original casting idea was Jeff Bridges and Robert Mulligan directing it. You can actually see Jeff Bridges being in De Palma's.
No, that's one of the things is, originally it was going to be Robert Mulligan, who directed Summer of 42, amongst other movies, who was going to direct it, and it was like the whole producing team of The Sting was behind it, and they had just brought Jeff Bridges in. Now, the thing is, eventually it moved over to Martin Scorsese, and it was still kind of set up at that time with Jeff Bridges, but they wanted Robert De Niro. But as much of a rising star as De Niro was, he wasn't quite. Columbia Pictures wasn't comfortable with him starring in the movie. They wanted somebody with a bigger name. But he had just been cast to play young Vito Corleone in Godfather 2. So the idea amongst Scorsese and Schrader and that whole little team, not Tony Bill, he jumped out when Jeff Bridges left, was wait a minute. Well, let's just wait. Let's not make the movie right now. Let's just wait. Let's wait for Godfather 2 to come out, and that might change. That might make De Niro a bigger star. He was already a big-time comer. That wasn't. He'd starred in movies before, even studio films. Bang the Drum Slowly. but maybe that would change his profile. And it did, and he won Best Supporting Actor, so he was all set. Scorsese still had to wait an unconscionably long time because he had signed him to do 1900. And Bertolucci was taking his own sweet time doing his magnum opus, so they really, really had to wait. Now, the point of all that story I just told you, all that backstory, is the fact that even though De Palma liked De Niro and actually gave him his first lead roles and worked with him,
and hadn't played comedy, which he never did after that.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't think De Niro would have waited a year and a half, I don't think De Palma would have waited a year and a half for De Niro. He wanted to make the movie. I think he would have been absolutely happy with a Jeff Bridges movie produced by the producers of The Sting. Let's go. You know, and it didn't work out with Jeff Bridges, I can even see him being happy working, and I can even see him doing a good job with the character. Somebody like Jan Michael Vincent.
But it's not this, but it's this thing, this undercurrent that starts a movie and ends a movie, which is the way these movies sort of deal or not deal with race. And the Taxi Driver and Travis Bickle's sort of obsessive fear of black men, which certainly De Palma could have had his way with. He does that in cinema.
Oh yeah, he does it in Dress to Kill. What am I bothering you guys? No, you ain't bothering me. You're bothering me.
Dress to Kill, ladies and gentlemen. Because again, when you look at the book, you start off talking about race, and then the way you just sort of, your bemusement with the idea of the white pimp, something that only exists in the movies.
Yeah, right. The unicorn. The screenwriter unicorn of the 70s and the early 80s is the white pimp. Harvey Keitel in Sport is definitely the best depiction of it. Even though I don't quite buy it, Harvey Keitel's so great in the movie. It's like the Taxi Driver without Harvey Keitel. What the fuck would that even be? But then you add to it Wings Hauser in Vice Squad, Bo Hopkins in his white turtleneck in Dawn, Portrait of a Teenage Runaway. The hit Richard Gere in Report to the Commissioner. David Cassidy in David Cassidy Undercover. I always wondered, actually, whenever I watch these documentaries. Well, I also wondered whenever I watch these documentaries that take place at the Players Ball. Where's the table with the white pimps? All right, where Harvey Keitel and Bo Hopkins, Wings Hauser all hanging out. Wings Hauser in his nudie fucking Johnny Cash.
Again, I just.
Well, the thing about it though is part of the things in the book. I don't want to. This is one of the better parts of the book, so I don't want to fuck it up by repeating it badly. But this is a neat enough joke to say. Is they changed the character of the pimp that Paul Schrader wrote from black to white. Basically, because the producers are scared of it. They're uncomfortable with the imagery. And Columbia is uncomfortable with the imagery. Now, oddly enough, Columbia Pictures had no problem with all the murdering, scheming, and plotting and killing Caribbean brothers in the deep.
That's right.
But Taxi Driver apparently was a bridge too far. So the thing is, so they cast so this is. Ultimately, at the end of the day, they scared. I think they scared Scorsese. They say, "Hey, look, the race riots of a few years ago have cast a long shadow, and it would take only one big incident of violence during the opening couple of weeks to happen in the theater, and the film might just be pulled from general release for public safety." And as Schrader points out, which later happened to The Warriors, though I don't think there's an apples and orange. I don't think there's an apples and apples comparison there between the two movies. But I think The Warriors, it was a gang movie, and then on opening weekend, some gang members showed up and there was some violence. I think that was the reason. Not because there were black characters in the But the thing about it, though, is so they changed it to white, which at the end of the day, I'm sure Scorsese was coming from a place where it's like, well, if there even is a chance of the film being pulled and not being theatrically released, I don't want to take that chance. But also, he was looking for a good character for Harvey Keitel to play anyway, and he had even offered Harvey the Albert Brooks role, but Harvey turned it down. So this opened up a good role for Harvey. So okay, all the better. But then Harvey pressed the fraudulent aspect by saying, okay, well, let me meet a white New York pimp so I can meet him and I can study him for the character. Well, then it became Schrader's job to go out in New York and search for this screenwriting 70s movie unicorn that does not exist in real life, called the New York White Street Pimp. And guess what? He didn't find them since they didn't exist. And so basically Harvey was forced to do his character research with a black gentleman of leisure.
But I mean, one of the things I think runs through the podcast and the book is that you don't like dishonesty. And that was a dishonest move. And so all the things you quibble with the movies are either dishonest moments like that, or directors being dishonest with themselves. And where does that come from? Because that's a really interesting thing. You always respond to it. A moment that feels fraudulent to you, you just call bullshit on it right away.
I not to compare myself, but I do think that is a legacy of learning about the basis of film criticism, film analysis, and how to break down a film. That's the lessons that I learned from Pauline Kael. She, one of her number one things that she pinpointed was fraudulentness. Fraudulentness in a movie, fraudulentness in narrative, and in character reaction. And one of the things that was so invigorating about reading her back in the day is, look, she tore apart a lot of movies that I liked, and
for example,
yeah. Well, I would say, except for The Wild Bunch, I don't think she gave Taxi Driver. I don't think she gave a good review to any of the movies in this book. All right, but I can disagree with her. And actually, as I've gotten older, I've disagreed with her on some films more than I even did before. But I still appreciate the article. I still appreciate the piece because I don't have to agree with her. It's just it's an invigorating discussion. It's invigorating analysis. I don't have to agree. But one of the things back, especially in the '80s, when she's reviewing all the crappy '80s movies, was the fact that I'd see something that I would like. And I would actually kind of be able to defend it, and I would work up a nice little thing of defense for it. And then I'd read the Pauline Kael review, and she would just cut it down. She would just cut it down to size within the first page. But not by being this pill. She would point out the absolute structural flaw of the narrative, and then you could never take it seriously again. From that point on, I think Leonard Nimoy's The Good Wife was the one that was the most to me. Because I'm not going to describe the whole fucking story of The Good Wife, all right? But when I was watching it, I actually thought it was a pretty good drama. I was into it. And not only was I into it, I could tell that it was sort of Leonard Nimoy's magnum opus. And so he was really holding on to the book. He was kind of trying to really do a literary version of the novel, not just turn it into a movie. It started out with a whole Lolita prologue that sets the whole thing up, that kind of sets it in this literary vein. Well, yeah, he does a pretty good job with it, and I actually like the acting in it, and I like all the characters in it. But okay, so you're reading the Pauline Kael review, and then within a paragraph, she goes, "Well, this movie wouldn't fucking exist in real life, because in real life, once Diane Keaton lost the case and lost the custody of her kids, she would just turn around and sue the lawyers for malpractice, and she would win. Because the whole movie is based on her following their bad advice. this movie's not over. This story is totally not over. She would continue to fight after this. And they just ruined the whole fucking movie. It just took the whole piss right out of it. I didn't think that when I was watching it.
Well, you actually got to meet Pauline Kael. You talk about that story?
Yeah. Well, I got to meet Pauline Kael because of this dude. All right, they were friends. Yes. Now, look, I'm not the person that I dig somebody, so thus I need to go out and meet them and
in fact, I have to persuade you to do this.
Yeah. So that's not. It's more like a situation. I kind of want to walk in the room and they're there, and then okay, setting it up. I don't know. Whatever. Anyway, so Elvis had mentioned a couple of different times that why don't you call Pauline up? She knows that you like her, and she likes you, and she's by herself in Connecticut. She would love a phone call. It would be a nice thing. It would be a very nice thing. If you have an issue, get over it. So and I keep yeah, I will. I should. Anyway, we're all in the Cannes Film Festival together, and we're not all of it, me and him. We're at dinner, and we're having a nice dinner in some French bistro. And then Elvis is cutting into his steak, and then he says, Quentin, and he's about 3 people away, so it's not like he's sitting next to me. It's like 3 people past me. He's like, Quentin, are you still such a bitch? You're afraid to talk to Pauline Kael?
Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
And I said, do what now? Oh, I'm sorry. Did you not hear me? Let me repeat it. Are you still such a bitch that you're afraid to talk to Pauline Kael? And and then he takes me off the hook. I guess, look, I get it. I was nervous the first time I talked to her. I mean, the woman is 4'2". She's like meeting a bird. All right, you've got nothing to worry. All right, and then full of bravado, I asked her to drink a red wine. Okay, let's do it right now. And then he goes, well, yeah, she would be up right now, so it's okay. I go, well, let's find a phone. Well, I can do it on my. I'm not going to talk to Pauline Kael on a cell phone. So we go to the manager's office of.
No, we went to a payphone in the lobby.
Okay.
I'm still paying for this phone call.
We went to a payphone in the lobby, and he called Pauline up and put me on the phone with her, and we had a very, very lovely conversation
about Jackie Brown, which she loved.
Yeah, she loved Jackie Brown, and. Though she said the opening credits were so indebted to Omovedar that they should have had quotes around it. Which I'm sure was a line she thought up when she saw the movie, has been waiting forever to use it. And then we had a lovely, lovely conversation. And then when the conversation was over, she was, I just want to let you know that I love listening to you talk about Blowout on talk shows. Well, thank you very much. And really only a few months later, after that, she passed on. And so I really want to thank Elvis for that, because I would have put it off. And if she had passed away without me actually talking to her, it would have been a huge regret.
I just thought it was important because I've always wanted to ask you, what was the first piece of hers that you read that had an impact on you?
Well, the way I first discovered who she was, in the first place, I think I might have heard the name, but when I'm 14 or 15, I'm not reading the New Yorker per se. I mean, I've seen it in the stands, but I'm not reading it. So the first time I think I saw her was on The Tomorrow Show with Tom Snyder. And I think she was 78, so she was advertising her When the Lights Go Down book. And she just, the way it started was, Tom Snyder, who I'm a big fan. I really like Tom Snyder. And so he introduces Pauline Kael with this big introduction. And he goes, okay, so now Pauline, you said that Philip Kaufman's Invasion of the Body Snatchers was the most creative movie probably made in the last 2 years. Come on, Pauline, you don't really believe that train, do you? She just looked at him and she goes, well, Tom, I'm not responsible for your taste. I'm talking about mine. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? And I think I was doing something while the TV was on, and all of a sudden I stopped doing something and just started watching. And she was amazing. And she's just like one wild bon mot after another, just mentioning all these things. And I was like, wow, that was a really cool lady. So then what happened was, it's funny, this was a piece I was going to write for the book that I didn't put in. This is exactly what I'm saying. So anyway, so one of the things is there was, for the most part, a lot of the movies I saw in the 70s were one of two malls. There was the Old Town Mall, all right, or the Del Amo Mall. And both of them had B. Dalton bookstores in them. So part of the thing that I would do is I'd see a movie, and then when I was finished with the film, before I take the bus and go home, I'd go to the B. Dalton bookstore and look in the cinema section or the mystery crime section, and just browse for like a half hour or so, and go home. Anyway, I think it was at the Old Town Mall, and I think actually the movie was Henry Winkler's The One and Only. I was going to see that. I got there early, so I went to B. Dalton then. And I noticed the book in the cinema section When the Lights Go Down. I go, hey, that's that cool old broad, on the Tomorrow Show. And so I look at the table of contents, and I'm like, wow, all these cool movies that I like. She's reviewing. Okay, and at the time I was really into, we just mentioned Robert Mulligan's Blood Brothers. All right, so I go, okay, let me read what she has to say about Blood Brothers. She fucking hates Blood Brothers. I loved Richard Gere. She fucking hated Richard Gere. I would hate Richard Gere her entire career. All right, I thought Paul Sorvino was just like a great actor. Just like, oh my God, he's a fucking windbag, And she's going through this whole thing, just ripping it to shreds. Okay. Then, also the Paul Sorvino kick, all right? I also like Slow Dancing in the Big City. So then I read the Slow Dancing in the Big City review. Oh my God! All right? As bad as she was to Paul Sorvino in Blood Brothers, it's merciless. Absolutely merciless what she does in Slow Dancing in the Big City. Okay, third one before I leave to go to the movie. Well, I love Paradise Alley. Let me read the Paradise Alley review. Oh my God! She practically runs Sylvester Stallone out of town on a rail. When Apollo Creed is stomping around his house in Rocky II, reading hate mail, yelling at his wife, that is Sylvester Stallone stomping around his mansion in Beverly Hills, reading the Pauline Kael review of Paradise Alley. Well, I wish you'd say that to my face. Apollo Creed said, you're a liar, you're a fraud, you're a disgrace to your race, go kill yourself. So, I'm like, okay. Now, normally at that time, when me and with myself and the critic disagreed that much, then it's like, okay, fuck this person. I mean, this, it was always about their opinion, if their opinion matched mine or not. Her writing was so fucking good. Her writing was so good, and she was so funny, and that's almost the most important part. She was funny. I mean, laugh out loud funny, not this critic witty shit. She was funny. You're funny. You're not just me. And you're not a critic. Anymore. But the thing is, but also, God, look, I didn't agree with her, but she definitely knows more fucking than I do. This is no doubt. She's just talking way over my head. And normally I'd read a bad review of something that I like, and I go, what the fuck does that guy know? Well, she knows a lot more than me, that's for damn sure, all right? But the weird part about it was, okay, so I go and see the movie, and I see the movie, and I watch the movie. I'm drawn back to the Beatles bookstore. I gotta try it again. I gotta read something else. And so I read something else, and that's negative about something I like. And so okay, I'm gonna try one more time, okay? I'm gonna look at the table of contents, and I'm gonna pick one more review. And then I picked the review for Brian De Palma's Carrie. And then, if you're following Kevin, I think it's maybe the best movie review ever written in the history of movie reviews. And then that was it. Now, I couldn't afford a $12.95 book at that time. I had enough to go to the movies and buy a Coke and maybe some popcorn. I was a kid. I didn't have that much money. I had my allowance. So it became a ritual for about 4 weeks that whenever I would go see a movie at either one of the two malls, because they both had Vidal and they both had the book, I would go there like a half hour early and read some of the reviews, and then go to the movie and then come back and read some more reviews for the next half hour. And after about a month, I was like, okay, fuck it, I read the fucking book. I saved up a couple of allowances, and finally I went and bought the book, and then I think I went to the food court and just read for 45 minutes or an hour straight.
Now, this is interesting to me, just because you guys disagree so much, because when you read the book, you kind of go, you put next to When the Lights Go Down, it's like an 80-20% disagreement factor going on there. I mean, that's why it's so funny for me to hear how much you love Paradise Alley, because she really couldn't stand it. And all the promise she saw in Rocky, she thought just kind of went away.
Well, I think she was, I think she was purposely hard on the movie. I think there are things to say about it. None of them are super bad things, all right? But there are things to say, and I think I say some of them, and other people have said, and other people have said them. Those aren't the things she's saying. I think it's a very biased review. I think it was, and this is just my opinion, but she was, she chose the people she was going to kick to the curb, and she chose the people that she would push up, like they were literally climbing a ladder, and she kind of helped push them up. And De Palma was definitely one of the ones that she championed. And I think there was a play. It seemed maybe as if Stallone would be one after the Rocky review that she might champion, and she didn't. And in between the two movies, all right, she kind of still championed him when she talked about other people. As she's putting down Richard Gere, she's kind of putting up Stallone, to some degree, as far as looking for Mr. Goodbar. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's actually the one good part she says about him in the Paradise Alley review. And she's right about that. Those are absolutely the best parts of the movie, the parts that he wrote with him and Linda Dillon. But I think she just, I think she curiously decided to banish him, and then kind of turn him into a laughingstock. And I think it was, I don't think it was a laughingstock, and I think it was ungenerous of her. I think it was ungenerous.
But again, I'm just asking because you talk about her being your film school. What's interesting is there's a film school that teaches really hard on you.
Oh yeah, well she's definitely hard on me, but and well, frankly though, it also made me want to drink any of that. It didn't matter what I felt. There's no way I can win an argument with Pauline Kael. However, the thing about it is I can learn my lessons from her, and I can learn more about what it is I like about the movies that I like, even if she doesn't like them, and then I would be able to defend Paradise Alley more to some degree, all right? It's not about trying to convince her, and I think that's kind of how she was in real life. She's not expecting a young writer to convince her, but she's curious about them making good arguments. She doesn't even have to buy it, all right? But it's an intelligent, fun argument.
Yeah, because I just think
Well, you had that argument with her about, you would have that argument with her about Leone.
Yes, that's true. And finally convinced her at the end. Because, but
You wore her down for 20 years.
I wasn't the only one either, but I'm going to talk to you about Leone here too, just because, I mean, I think seeing Leone, because we're talking about a lot of people that you mentioned in this book were people who didn't get their desserts as filmmakers.
Like John Flynn or somebody like that.
Oh God, yes. John Flynn, or Leone, during his lifetime.
Yeah, during his lifetime. Well, in Italy, he probably did, but not here.
But not at the very beginning. I mean,
Yeah.
the very beginning, but there's this perverse streak in you almost that tends to like really swing in the other direction. Somebody else doesn't like something, this guy, oh yeah, I know, seek this out. If they don't like it, I gotta find out and see why I shouldn't like it, and you end up liking it.
Yeah, right. Well, I do have a contrarian kind of thing. Well, that's for sure, all right? But one of the things that I did in the 80s that was, I think during my video archives years, was when a director would make a big movie and there would be like almost short of a fiasco as far as the way the critics responded to it. Where it was supposed to be this big thing, and then all of a sudden, oh, the word about it is terrible, and they completely fucked it up, and it's a fiasco, it's a laughingstock. I would go see those movies hoping to love it. So I could defend it against all comers at the store, because when all the critics dogpiled on something, I wasn't the one to think, oh, hey, let me not see that movie and make quick jokes at its expense. I wanted to see it and love it, and sometimes I might even talk myself into at least appreciating it enough. Oh man, those guys are assholes. One big example, and it's funny because one big example that I don't know how I would think about it now, all right? Most of the movies I really liked in the 80s, I can't even imagine watching a second time today, all right? And those are the movies I liked, all right? Not to say that there's not good stuff then, all right? It's 10 years, all right? But the year it came out, I was an inordinate supporter of Hugh Hudson's Revolution. I really liked that movie, and I defended. They've obviously cut it. When the director's cut comes out, Hugh Hudson will be vindicated. Now, I don't think the director's cut never did come out back then, but it's come out now. BFI have released it, so I bought it, but I haven't had the balls to watch it yet.
But so much of the book, those people, we came from the same age, this period where...
Well, by the way, talking about coming up the same age. Okay, the thing about myself and Elvis is, look, we're friends. But the thing is, though, other than that, it's almost as if we lived in the same house together, because our interests were so aligned that, like, we would talk about, like, a movie shown on television, or a TV show, or a special that probably only was shown one time, and without like a lot of fanfare. So that means that at that point of time, in 1971, I was doing the exact same thing in my house that he was doing in his house.
That's so sad. Anyway, what I want to say too is that so much of the stuff that we end up loving is the stuff like the outfit that didn't get the kind of attention it deserved. That part of the fun of reading the book for me, and I think you guys will find this too, is sort of these moments of discovery that you have, these things that kind of felt like belong to you. And you got to sort of build your own opinion rather than having somebody tell you what to think about it.
Yeah, right on.
And that's the fun of so much of the stuff we talk about, but for the outfit in particular, we had this conversation when you sent me the check, like, oh my God. I mean, because you can't not love that movie.
Yeah. No, exactly. Well, and it also gave me an opportunity, when I saw the outfit, it was way before I ever knew who Donald Westlake or Richard Stark was, or there was a series of novels based on Parker. I'd even seen Point Blank, but I didn't know the whole literary lineage of the whole thing. But in the 80s I did, and like I said, in the 80s that after living through the 70s, where complicated, fucked up, really interesting characters were the norm practically, and were encouraged, then all of a sudden that just dried up completely, and then it was almost like the 50s part 2, but a self-imposed 50s, as opposed to society imposing it. So then all of a sudden, just like it was in the 50s and before, every book or play that had tough characters and challenging characters and challenging sexuality or challenging drug use, all that shit was watered out of it and strained out of it. And we were back to that time again. And and the whole thing about the 80s, it became a whole thing. I'm not saying every movie in the 80s was bad, but definitely the tone compared to what was in the 70s had drastically changed. And the thing about it, the thing that seemed the most important to studio executives greenlighting movies and developing movies was that the lead character be likable. And that was the end-all be-all. The characters had, well, who the fuck's gonna watch a movie about that guy? He's not likable. Who the fuck cares if that girl lives or dies? She's unlikable. And like the 70s, is Popeye Doyle likable? No. Is Travis Bickle likable? I'm down with Charlie Rain's journey. I don't know if he's likable. Are Freebie and the Bean likable? I like watching them, but no, I don't want to fucking get a ticket from those fucking dudes, So in that, everybody has to be likable. Everybody has to have a reason, and even if you do walk a complicated route, it's all going to get changed. You're going to get redemption in the last 20 minutes. And the whole movie's been about you seeing the error of your ways and becoming a nice person by the end of it. So in that world, discovering Parker in that series of Richard Stark novels was, wow, what a character. Because he almost just flew in the face of those restrictions of the 80s. And I think that's what you liked the most about that chapter was really diving into the literary backdrop of Parker.
Well, I think you mentioned that Neil Macaulay, he's influenced by that. I would bet, or I would say actually that James Caan's character in Thief is influenced by that too.
No, I would say
definitely that kind of professional. It's all about the job, no other kind of attachment. No sentimentality whatsoever. I would definitely say Michael Mann has absorbed that aesthetic.
Well, you read Heat too, all right, and you can tell he's absorbed Richard Stark's writing, Westlake's writing. There's sections of it where like Chris just seems like a messy Parker, from time to time. And one of the things I say in the book is I actually do think that De Niro as Neil Macaulay in Heat is probably the best movie version of Parker, even though he's not necessarily Parker. And so after I saw Heat, I was talking to Mr. De Niro, and I brought up, I go, you're kind of like the character Parker. Have you ever read any of those novels by Richard Stark? And he goes, oh, yeah, Michael gave me a couple of those when I was prepping for Heat.
But in Thief too, in fact, Willie Nelson in prison, he says,
the only thing I would change, you're right. You're right about James Caan. The only thing I would think is James Caan has more personality than Parker.
Not much more.
Parker wouldn't say it quite as funny as James Caan says.
Perhaps something.
Fucking asshole! Asshole! Hey, new Creed. Why? What's wrong with it? It's fucking cut its sheath!
But that whole speech of Willie Nelson gives
I don't really hear Parker say, hey, I'm Joe Boss of my own body. You got it?
Well, all this, anyway, but that whole kind of, that unsentimental kind of cruelty.
Yeah.
Well, that happens in Michael Mann movies. It's very much out of the
No, I think a case can be made that along with everything Michael Mann learned in real life, his whole jumping off of his criminal milieu, he learned a lot of it from Richard Stark.
Absolutely.
It's there. I think that was the basis of it, and then he went out and backed it up with, talking to real Chicago thieves and real Chicago detectives, and just kept going on with it.
But I think too, this gets back to what you're talking about. There's also this kind of honesty in this. There's like no fraudulent. These guys don't have any moves. In fact, they're so so non-sentimental. They don't even use contractions. Everything is do not, I will not, you shall not.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, very much so. You got a partner? That's fine. He beefs on you? That's your problem. He beefs on us? That's your problem.
But that comes out of that stuff. That kind of directness, I mean, that's really who Brad is in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. He could be a Parker kind of character.
Yeah, he could. Yeah, I kind of see, I see Cliff more as a Elmer Leonard kind of character. I mean, he could, I was actually just reading, I wouldn't do it, but I literally just this last week on this tour, one of the books I brought with me is I never read Stick. And so I was reading Stick, and I was like,
still make a movie out of it.
Yeah, I was sort of like, I don't think I would. I do something new, but I was like, I could take Stick out of this and put Cliff in it, and the whole story still fucking works.
Yeah, I mean, but that kind of storytelling too. I mean, it's so funny because so many of the movies. I mean, Alligator could almost be from that world. I mean, that kind of is very simple, very direct. This is the goal. You have to do this. You have to be professional about it.
Well, I mean, that's what makes. We're talking about the Jaws ripoff Alligator with Robert Forster, which is revealed with the thing. It's how I ended up casting him. From that movie in 1980, how I ended up casting him in Jackie Brown as a bail bondsman in 1997. But that was one of the script written by John Sayles, and one of the things about it, though, is, it's a movie about a giant alligator, and it's a Jaws ripoff, but John Sayles is a really terrific writer. And the cop character that Forster plays is like a for-real cop character that just happens to be after this giant alligator. You know, but the whole police stuff actually works vividly, but he's a really terrific character to such a degree that that when I cast him in, as Max Cherry in Jackie Brown, I said, look, as far as I'm concerned, you're the same guy from Alligator. You're the exact same guy. So, like, you fought this alligator in 1980. You blew the shit out of him. You got married to Robin Riker. It didn't work. No problem. Marriages don't work oftentimes, you know. You left her, decided you've had enough of the police force, and you became a bail bondsman. And which takes us to 1997, and you meet Jackie Brown.
This gets us back to talking about race again. And Elmore was a friend of mine, and having this conversation with him about he was saying, do you know who Pam Grier is? I'm like, yes. She's playing Jackie Brown. Which book is Jackie Brown? He goes, wait, really? He goes, yeah. What do you think about that? I went, it sounds perfect to me. And I didn't know you at this point.
Yeah.
But we were talking about it. So, talk about what led you to that decision.
Well, so I read the book, and the character in the book is not black, and not Jackie Brown. All right? It's like Jackie Burke, and but she's like, you know, more or less around the same age, like 48 or something like that. And the thing about the book that was so intriguing was she's a really terrific character, but you know, it's exciting because she's not. I would have a problem saying this word. She's not a criminal. She's slightly associated with that world, but that's not really her world. She really is just a regular citizen. She's just a regular woman starting to get a little older now, and her options have kind of fallen off because of some bad choices that she made, and she's kind of stuck in a dead-end job, and what's she going to do about it? And kind of life is starting to close in on her a little bit. So when she starts having to juggle both, like this very dangerous dude, the Sam Jackson character, or Del Roby, and then the cops that are really on the make and really want to put people down, put people behind bars for good. She's playing this very chancy, dangerous game with both of these entities, and she's pitting them off against each other. One of the things that I hope it comes across in the movie, but it definitely comes across in the book, is every time she tells a story to Ordell Roby's character, you can't believe all the shit she's saying. You can't believe she's telling them everything about the cops. You can't believe that she's just revealing everything there is to reveal. Then she talks about the cops. Then she talks to the cops. And she tells them everything about Ordell. And she tells them all the information that they don't have. And you're like, you don't know who to believe. You don't know, okay, is she lying to them? Or is she lying to them? Or who's she lying to? Whoa, what's going on there? Come out. Guys, come down. Who's she lying to? And your whole thing is, I just pray she's not lying to Max Cherry during this thing. And but the point of the character, going a little too long on this, but the point of the character is that she's unflappable. It seems like no matter what the situation is, even though she's a civilian, even though she's not of this ilk, of this credit. Yeah, shut up, mate. Shut up. We're gonna bounce you out. Then why are you doing here? Well, that's a good one. Well, you're telling me something I don't know. I don't know that.
Yeah, thank you. What he said was calm down. There's no judgment saying calm down.
What the hell are you talking about?
It just became a real town hall all of a sudden.
Yeah.
I love it. Thanks, New York. And now the cast of Hamilton will join us. Here's why I asked you about Jackie Brown. Because I thought it has been the logical conclusion of Coffee, Foxy Brown. That was sort of a paraphrase, sort of remake, that's where you're carrying that character over. Did it make sense to you?
Yeah. Well, yeah, that was part of the thing, was the fact that the fact about it was
The real 42nd Street audience. And now Superfly, ladies and gentlemen. Superfly TNT.
Yeah, it's like, no, this fits in with the end of my first chapter, actually. You'll all hear that in a second. Look, the part that I was saying before was the idea that when I'm trying to think of who could be an actress of this age that could be stuck in these kind of situations that could seemingly handle everything, and Pam Grier seemed like the perfect choice. And also, I like Pam Grier movies, and so I like the idea of doing literally my version of a Pam Grier movie. It's just all these years later, and then this is what's going on.
It's like I was saying, because it felt like in the same way, absolutely, that Foxy Brown was originally supposed to be the sequel to Coffee, that this could be really the closing of that book, the last chapter of that book.
Absolutely. And then it's like, and I always like Bill Hooks' comment about Jackie Brown. She goes, Jackie Brown redeems the pornography of Coffee.
But it's interesting too, because again, I mean, the first conversation we had was a huge argument about Shaft. You were saying you could make just a good version of Shaft, a better version of Shaft, in fact. I want to hear about your reaction to Shaft when you first saw it, because it would have probably been one of those downtown LA theaters.
No, I actually didn't see Shaft at the theater. I've also kind of changed my mind on Shaft quite a bit, actually, to tell you the truth. I watched it on television, and I was expecting a lot by the time I saw it, and I didn't really care for it. The only scene that I really, really liked was the bar scene. When that is really terrific. Now, I do actually still think, aside from some of the great dialogue that appears,
threw my man out the goddamn window. Okay, aside from lines like that. I do think the best writing in the script is that bar scene. That bar scene where he pretends to be the bartender for these hoodlums. But I just thought, I think after everything I'd heard, I was just, I just didn't care for it. I thought it was mundane, frankly, to tell you the truth. Now I kind of feel differently about it, and also part of the reason I feel differently about it is because after writing my piece on Bullet, I kind of clicked into that style of filmmaking that Peter Yates does in Bullet, which I think is, I really do think it's one of the best directed movies of that era, as far as just direction. It's not a narrative movie, but just the fact that it almost ignores narrative is what's so cinematic about it. And I really wish Yates had done more movies in that style, but he didn't really do that, but other directors did. It's pretty much freaking style, all right, is what started in Bullet. And Puppet on the Chain does it, and and Douglas Higgock's Sitting Target does it, but Shaft absolutely does it. Shaft, there was a lot. In fact, there was a stylistic connection from Bullet to Shaft. Also just how cool the character looks and the way how cool the actor is who's playing it. But if I'm not even mistaken, I actually think there was actually some original posters. Badder than Bond, cooler than Bullet, or something like that.
Yeah, I just thought too, in terms of that kind of stylization of the opening, where he's walking and the music is basically going with his footfalls. I mean, that's the kind of you definitely respond to.
No, absolutely. And the font of the credits, the cut of the leather jacket. I think his leather outfit gets a little crazy by the time he gets to Shaft's big score. But the original, I think, burgundy pants, burgundy flares that he wears with a long cut leather coat, that's fucking awesome.
You talk about, in the book, what you want to invoke is those experiences of seeing movies like that, with audiences who really went for them. And that is just real visceral film response. I mean, that's what Pauline talks about, that kind of just being who you are. I remember in the review of The Warrior, she said when she saw it on 42nd Street, it was quiet. The crowd was hushed because they're just moved by the power of cinema. And that power of that kind of cinema that didn't get the respect it was due at the time is this thing that you really connected to.
Yeah, well, there is one of the things, it wasn't a thesis that I was working on that I purposely set out to do in writing the book. But I write the opening chapter of the book that talks about me being a kid, seeing a lot of these movies, the beginning of New Hollywood at the theaters when they came out. And there's a big aspect of me being everyone talks about the fact that I'm a little kid and I'm watching these big movies, and they make a big deal about that. To me, the most interesting deal was being amongst a bunch of adults at that time, watching those movies. And watching movies, a lot of the stuff was going over my head, but I was able to vibe in and understand oftentimes some of this stuff from the adult audiences, giving me cues about what's really going on. I mean, like for instance, in Summer of 42, the scene where Hermie is trying to buy the rubbers from the druggist. I didn't, at 1971, hold on, 7 or something like that, 7 or 8. All right, no, I'm 7. I'm 6 or 7. Okay, I didn't know what a fucking rubber was, Didn't know it was the thing that you put on your penis to stop you from coming in somebody. I didn't know. I did not know that. I had no idea. But by the way Hermie was hemming and hawing, and the way that the audience was laughing at his uncomfortable situation, and they all knew what a rubber was, that without knowing exactly, I got the gist. I got the gist of the scene. And that happened all throughout the 70s going to movies. But what I was saying is, what ended up becoming like an important part of the book was my alignment to the audience. Maybe more than any other group, maybe even more than other artists. I align myself with the audience because I know what it's like to be part of the audience. And I can make a movie for the audience. And when I say make a movie for the audience, that doesn't mean me second guessing what I think audiences will like as opposed to what I like. Or even like a faceless blob that's kind of trying to deal with commercialism, so to say. But I'm the audience. I'm the audience. I'm the movie-going audience. At least for the movies I'm making. All right? At least for the genres that I'm dealing with. All right? I'm the audience. And if I make it for me and I make it for what I will dig, then I'm just hoping that a lot of you will come along with me. And when it comes to the big audience moments out there that I've had in my movies, so far so good.
Yeah.
Since we're talking about this, and this has come up, I guess, in the recent, press, you get asked about Marvel movies, which, and I know you're actually a Marvel fan.
Yeah. I grew up reading Marvel comics. Yeah.
And I see you talk about the connection between Marvel comics and stuff in Inglourious Basterds. So I'm not trying to bait you.
Yeah, I know.
But if you were to make a Marvel movie, what would it be?
A while ago, a long time ago, 20 years ago or so, it would have been Luke Cage Hero for Hire. That's what I even thought about. Yeah, I wanted Larry Fishburne, to be Luke Cage. If I were going to do one now, well, I wouldn't, all right? But if I were...
Let's say the best of all possible worlds.
Yeah, if I were going to do one now, it would probably be Sergeant Fury and his Howling Commandos.
This is what Bastards kind of is.
Yeah, well, Bastards is basically Sergeant Fury and his Howling Commandos. Yeah.
Because again, these are movies that are books that are audience pleasers. That universe is connected in ways that your universe is connected. You can't not see that influence.
Well, no. I'm actually kind of proud that silently behind the margins, if you know what's going on, then you know what's going on. The fans have put it together. But long before there was this, shared universe, this Marvel movie shared universe where every movie is connected to each other and all these characters there's overlap and bloodline overlap and everything. That I've been doing that since the very beginning. And without making a big deal of it, and the fans know, all right, the fans know that who Mr. White is talking about with Joe is Alabama from True Romance, and the fans know that Vincent Vega is Toothpick Vic's brother, and then all the way down the line.
Because, again, I just thought that you must have had offers to do remakes of Shaft or Marvel movies. They must have come to you.
Well, in particular, they were really going after me big time to do a dialogue polish on the Sam Jackson Shaft. They were, I don't do dialogue polishes. That's my well water. That's my magic well water. I ain't selling that shit. That's mine.
So we understand you're retired. But there's got to be more. There's got to be a play you want to write or something else.
Oh, well, you didn't ask that, all right?
Well, I am asking that.
Okay, yeah.
Funny you brought that up, yes. Is there a play you want to write, Quentin?
Yes, I've written a play, actually. I'm not going to go into what it is, but I have written a play. And probably two of the things that I've written, I wrote the play actually, frankly, to tell you the truth, I wrote the play before I wrote Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. But I've written a play, and I've also, a few things. And I've actually written, I've mentioned it before, once before, I've written actually an 8-episode TV series. We'll probably start getting it going at some point next year.
Doesn't count as my 10th movie.
Do the math. No, it doesn't. Okay, it's just us in here, and apparently nobody has a phone, so you can tell us maybe a little bit about the TV shows.
Fuck all y'all! No, I'm not letting the cat out of the bag. No. Sorry, I'm a bummer, I know. I'm no fun.
This has been a horrible night, you're right. This is terrible. But
I'm no fun, I'm a bummer.
because part of this too, and we've had this discussion, I wouldn't have it here. You gotta feel like what the audience dynamic is. It's changed so much. Does it make you wonder what the future of movies is for audiences? Because it's changed a lot just since Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yeah, I have no idea what the future is. About movies. I mean, even the whole concept of like, well, when are you going to do your last movie? Well, half the question that makes me want to say after somebody asks me that question is, well, what the fuck is a movie today anyway? What, something that shows on Netflix? Is that a movie?
Yes.
Is something that shows? Yeah, it's a movie on Netflix. A really great one, by the way. So it's like, just doing something. Well, so like, is that cinema? Is that what we're talking about now? Is that the deal? At least coming from where I was coming from in 2019 with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, that is diminishing returns. If that is really all there, if that is all there is. Now, I'm not really sure that is all there is. But I think it remains to be seen. I think the next 4 years are going to kind of go one way or the other. Does that mean that 3,000 print releases are going to be a thing of the past? I don't know. I do think I own a boutique cinema, so maybe I have a reason to think this, but I do think boutique cinemas will actually not only do good, I think they'll thrive. But exactly what... But still, if it's just digital projection everywhere and it plays for 30 fucking days, it plays for 30 days, and then you can buy it on television, well, that is diminishing returns, the way my career has been up until now.
I think with that hopeful note, we will take a little break, but let's thank Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah!